As immigrants from the old countries began to move west across what would become the United States, they carried their Protestant faith with them, and in many places where a church did not exist, Sabbath schools were developed. In 1865, Deacon Sage of the Rochester First Baptist Church gave land and initial funds to build a chapel in order to ensure that a Sabbath school be developed in the Lake Avenue area. In the beginning, those early Sabbath schools were organized in a very simple fashion. Two groups were designated. All the children up to age 10 were in the infant class, and the rest were in the main school. The sessions began each Sunday with opening exercises, when all gathered for announcements, singing, and prayers. They would then break into classes for their lessons and reconvene for their closing exercises of more singing, personal prayers, and the superintendent's talk. In the very beginning, the staff of the Sabbath school was chosen from First Baptist Church because they had the leadership ability and the missionary zeal for the venture. But by 1870, the leadership of the school was transferred to those who were still members of First Baptist Church but lived in the Lake Avenue neighborhood. It's interesting to note that by 1871, when the church was formed, most of the leadership of the Sabbath school were those assuming the direction of the church. However, they remained two entities and were totally separate from one another. The Sabbath school had its own constitution, officers, and monies that were held separately from the church. At the end of his first 4 months of service as its pastor, Ebenezer Nisbet became the superintendent of the Sabbath school, a position that he held until he resigned from the church in 1875. This began the process of tying the two entities more closely together, but it would not be fully accomplished until the mid-20th century. By 1865, Rochester First Baptist had established 5 Sabbath schools, and one of the most important components of the Sabbath school was its library. Between the 5 schools, there was a competition to see who held the most books. Since its beginning in 1865, the Sabbath school was held at 3 p.m. in the afternoon. This continued after the church was formed in 1871. And on September 5, 1875, the Sabbath school teachers and officers met with the church officers to determine if the Sabbath school hour should be changed. It was then voted that the Sabbath school would meet at 12 o'clock p.m. immediately following worship, another step in bringing these two entities closer together. The first series of lessons that were adopted by the Sabbath school was a series of lessons published in the Examiner and Chronicle. The Examiner and Chronicle dates from 1854, and the editor was a Baptist and had the cooperation of the best writers in the Baptist denomination. In fact, there was a Sunday school feature that was produced by Edward Eggleston, who was the editor of the National Sunday School Teacher. He was a Methodist teacher, laborer, circuit rider, and writer of children's stories, and a literary editor. Other Sunday school materials were in use at the time. The Young Reapers was published by the American Baptist Publication Society, and the children's paper was published by the American Tract Society, founded in 1852. The Youth's Temperance Banner was published by the National Temperance Society and Publication House. The society was founded in 1865 after a non-denominational conference held in Saratoga Springs, New York. In addition to the curriculum, music in the form of group singing was an important part of Sunday school. During this time, the LABC Sunday School was using such books as Bradbury's Fresh Laurel from the Sabbath School and Royal Diadem for the Sunday School. It was in 1884 that a new building behind the original chapel was completed, and the chapel was given to the Baptist Union and moved to Cameron Street to establish the Lyle Avenue Sabbath School Mission, and on March 2, 1884, the Sunday School held a farewell service before physically moving into the new building. The new building included an auditorium, which was used by the Sunday School for opening and closing exercises. Nationally, there was a movement towards graded lesson plans as opposed to uniform materials for all groups. And in 1893 to 1894, LABC Sunday School adopted the Blakesley lesson plans, which were graded for different age groups: kindergarten, primary, intermediate, and adult. We are blessed in our archives to hold a number of images from these various classes. From the very beginning, careful Sunday school records of membership and attendance were kept. And beginning in 1901, at the end of every school year, during Children's Day, the children would advance to the next level come fall. It was a tradition that has lasted ever since. And beginning the next year, Rally Day would kick off the start of a new Sunday school year. It is within these first 30 years that we discover a commitment to Christian education that continues to this day.